Okay, picture this. You're driving down a completely empty highway. It's 3 in the morning, the rain is just absolutely hammering against your windshield, and suddenly, cutting right through the roar of your own engine, you hear something else. Something slow, something almost cheerful. You hear whistling. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be diving deep into the chilling Raymond Carter case of 1981. It's a completely unsolved anomaly that I promise you will make you think twice before ever deciding to drive alone at night. Okay, let's dive into this. You see, folks out in East Texas, they don't fear the typical stuff. They aren't scared of murders, they aren't scared of the swamps. They fear the whistling. In fact, locals don't even talk about Black Oak Road out loud. It's strictly whispered about. Because to them, this isn't just some spooky urban legend. It's a very real warning. Section 1. The Legend of Black Oak. The Rules of the Road. So to truly grasp the sheer terror of this story, we first need to understand the local rules of survival. They're pretty straightforward. Number 1, if you hear whistling after midnight. Number 2, never, ever stop. And number 3, beware of unfamiliar roads, especially if a road you know like the back of your hand suddenly starts looking different. Now, most people just laugh at these old stories, right? Well, at least until they find themselves out there all alone. And honestly, this local folklore brilliantly illustrates the exact fatal mistakes our guy Raymond was about to make. Section 2, the night of 1981, the descent begins. So our protagonist is a 23-year-old Vietnam veteran named Raymond Carter. He was not the type to believe in ghosts. At all. On this particular rainy Thursday in October of 1981, he was just doing his job, hauling a normal load of meat out toward Beaumont. But that totally routine drive, it ended abruptly at exactly 1:17 a.m. Right as he neared Black Oak County, the physical environment around Raymond literally began to warp. His CB radio, which was his one and only lifeline to the outside world, just completely died. Nothing but static. Normal reality was officially over. And right after the radio cut out, the weather turned violently against him. The rain shifted into this solid, impenetrable wall of water. The highway was instantly completely deserted. Try to imagine it for a second. You are locked in this heavy metal box. There is absolutely nothing around you but pitch blackness, the deafening roar of a downpour, and just crushing absolute isolation. Then, things get geographically impossible. It was like space itself was pulling him into a trap. Raymond drove this route all the time. He knew it perfectly. But suddenly, every single road sign he passed had changed. They were all inexplicably pointing him toward a town called Ash Hollow, a town that, as far as he knew, he had never heard of in his entire life. Section 3, the passenger in the rain, the first encounter. Now, this is where the tension just hits an absolute breaking point. Underneath a dead, flickering street lamp, Raymond spots someone. It's a man in a long black coat. His face is completely hidden by a hat, and he's just whistling, softly, almost cheerfully, in the pouring rain. Raymond gets weirded out and just drives right past him. But then, 20 minutes later, down the same highway, that exact same man is standing on the shoulder again. There's no way he could have caught up. Raymond panics, slams on the gas, and out of nowhere, that dead CB radio explodes with harsh static. A terrified, hushed voice whispers through the speakers, "Don't let him inside." Hearing that, Raymond almost swerves his massive truck right off the road. But before he can even process it, another voice comes through the radio. This one isn't terrified at all. It's perfectly calm. It just says, "You already stopped." Raymond frantically checks his rearview mirror and his blood runs cold. He sees the impossible. The man in the black coat is already standing on the back step of the truck, moving at highway speeds, just smiling. Raymond completely freaks out. He hits the brakes hard, grabs a tire iron, and jumps out into the storm. But there's nobody there. Nothing but a trail of muddy footprints leading off into the dark woods. Taking a shaky breath, he climbs back into the cab. But the second he sits down, he notices the smell has changed. The air is thick with the scent of wet dirt, rotting leaves, and the unmistakable metallic stench of old blood. Then the whistling starts up again. Only this time it's coming from right inside the sleeper cabin behind his seat. Section 4, Ash Hollow Station, the sanctuary that isn't. Operating in a state of absolute pure shock, Raymond drives like a madman for another hour until he finally spots an old, half-abandoned gas station. But hanging right outside the building is a rusted sign. It reads, Ash Hollow, population 312. To put that into perspective, that is a population of over 300 people living in a phantom town that does not exist on any map. Who on earth are these people? Raymond bursts inside the station. There's an old woman there, and she immediately, silently, locks the heavy front door behind him. She looks at him and says, he only follows people who drive alone. She begs Raymond not to look out the window, but human nature being what it is, he does. Out in the rain, standing right under a streetlight, is the hitchhiker. But the truly terrifying part? Behind the hitchhiker, cloaked in the darkness, are dozens and dozens of completely motionless, silent silhouettes. When Raymond asks who they are, the old woman gives a bone-chilling answer. Everyone who stopped. Listen, this is where the situation shifts from a terrifying ghost story into deep psychological torture. The hitchhiker slowly steps right up to the glass of the station, and right before Raymond's eyes, the man's face starts to stretch. It literally starts to melt. He locks eyes with Raymond and targets his deepest, most buried trauma. He says, your brother still screams at night, using Raymond's darkest secret, the traumatic death of his brother in Vietnam, to completely break him. And as if that wasn't enough, the hitchhiker's whistling seamlessly morphs into the exact tune of his dead brother's favorite childhood song. Section 5. Escape into the dark. No way out. Suddenly, the front door handle starts to slowly turn. The old woman doesn't hesitate. She raises a shotgun and fires right through the glass. The creature doesn't even flinch. Outside, all those motionless silhouettes simultaneously start smiling. Then, boom, every single light in the station explodes into sparks. It is pure chaos. Raymond sprints blindly back into the pitch-black rain toward his truck. He jumps in, the engine screaming as it barely turns over. Instantly, dozens of pale, cold hands slam against the outside of his windows. Distorted faces are pressing out of the darkness against the glass. He absolutely floors the gas pedal, smashing his way through the crowd. But when he finally gets enough distance to look back in his mirrors, there's absolutely nothing there, just empty darkness and the falling rain. Hours later, the police found Raymond unconscious in his truck, parked safely near Houston. But here is the aftermath, the part that is literally impossible to explain. When the authorities opened his trailer, it was empty, zero cargo. Every single piece of meat was gone. And here's the kicker. All the heavy padlocks and official transit seals on those doors were completely untouched and intact. Oh, and the police? They searched everywhere. They never found Ash Hollow. No old gas station, no people, nothing. Section 6, the final interview, the echoes of 2022. Fast forward to decades later. For the rest of his life, Raymond was deeply paranoid. He slept every single night with his windows completely locked shut. In 2022, a young podcaster actually managed to track him down for an interview and asked him the ultimate question. What was that hitchhiker really? So the crucial point is, Raymond gave this incredibly haunting answer. He said, I think some roads don't lead to places. In his mind, that thing wasn't a ghost and it wasn't human. It was the very embodiment of a road to nowhere. Now, the podcaster just laughed nervously at that. You know the type. Sitting in his ultra-safe, brightly lit modern studio, he kind of brushed it off, asking what Raymond meant by that. But Raymond didn't say another word. The old man just went completely pale, stopped talking, and slowly shifted his gaze to the dark studio window right behind the podcaster's head. Because outside that window, cutting right through the sound of the rain against the glass, someone had started whistling again. Softly, cheerfully. So the only question I have left for you today is this. Who is standing outside your window right now?